stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mayor Gerardo Anaya,
Present.
Vice Mayor Luis Galindo,
Present.
Councilmember Jesus Roldan,
Present.
Councilmember Miguel Villalpando, Councilmember Juan Castillo,
Present.
Councilmember Marta Gonzalez,
Present.
Councilmember Lorena Delgadillo.
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Gonna move on, call to the public. Anybody from the public wishing to address council?
Mayor, at this time, if I'd like to introduce our new interpreter that's going to be here for our council meetings, but also the new interpreter for the court. Samuel Leal, if you can come up to the front and kind of introduce yourself.
Okay.
Hi, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Samuel Leal, and I will be interpreting for the city council meetings for the foreseeable future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. We have one proclamation, Elder Abuse Awareness Day.
Whereas older adults deserve to be treated with respect and dignity to enable them to deserve as leaders, mentors, volunteers, and vital participating members of our communities. And whereas the mayor's office, along with the city council and Western Arizona Council of Governments, Area Agency on Aging, recognize the importance of taking action to raise awareness, prevent, and address elder abuse. And whereas, as our population lives longer, we are presented with an opportunity to think about our collective needs and future as a city. And ageism and social isolation are major causes of elder abuse in the United States. And recognizing that it is up to all of us to ensure that proper social structures exist so people can retain community and societal connections, reducing the likelihood of abuse. And whereas preventing abuse of older adults through maintaining and improving social supports like senior centers, human services, and transportation will allow everyone to continue to live as independently and as possible and contribute to the life and vibrancy of our communities. And whereas where there is justice, there can be no abuse. Therefore, the mayor's office and members of the city council, along with Western Arizona Council of Governments, Area Agency on Aging, urge all people to restore justice by honoring older adults. Join us in our engaging and empowering movement and putting an end to abuse. Now, therefore, I, Gerardo Anaya, Mayor of the City of Somerton, do hereby proclaim June 14th, 2024 as Elder Abuse Awareness Day and encourage all of our citizens to recognize and celebrate older adults and their ongoing contributions to the success and vitality of our community, and urge all citizens to continue their support on the Somerton Senior Center's program and activities.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome members of our senior center we're gonna ask them to come and receive this proclamation. Lo voy a invitar a miembros del senior center que pasen. Les voy a entregar esta proclamación y tomarnos una foto.
Nos vemos, cuídense mucho. Pásate bien. Ponte guapo.
Okay, we're gonna move on to consent agenda. We have several items. We have 4 items. Approval of minutes for city council meeting of March 2nd. Work session, March 19th. City council meeting, March 19th. Work session, March 26th. Work session, April 2nd. City council meeting, April 2nd. Work session, April 9th. City council meeting, April 16th, and work session, April 23rd. And we have, the second item is approval of amendment to agreement with Lozano Law Firm for city prosecution legal services. And number 3, approval of service contract with Pierce Coleman for legal services effective July 1st, 2024. And item number 4, approval of lease agreement with Del Outdoor Advertising Inc. for a 6x12 billboard and structure on 851 West Main Street for the amount of $3,402 per year. Does any member want to remove an item from consent agenda? Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve a consent agenda.
So motion by Councilman Roldan,
Second.
second by Vice Mayor Galindo. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have one public hearing item concerning alternative expenditure limitation home rule option. Is there a motion to open public hearing?
Mayor.
So motion by Councilman Castillo, second by Councilman Roldan. Those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Good evening, Chona Medell, Finance Director. This public hearing is in accordance with ARS Section 41-563.01 concerning alternative expenditure limitations home rule option for the proposed extension in the city of Somerton. The Arizona Constitution and Arizona Revised Statute imposed an annual expenditure limitation on Arizona cities and towns. Home rule option allows the community to determine what is spending limits will be at the local level rather than the formula-based limit imposed by the state of Arizona with the approval of the majority of the qualified voters of Somerton. Without this home rule option, Somerton expenditures would be limited to the state-imposed formula, resulting in a reduction in city services for the next fiscal years 2024, 2025, and the 3 years preceding that, after that. The home rule option is in effect for 4 consecutive years once it is approved. With the approval of council, Somerton residents will be asking to vote on the home rule option on November 5th, 2024 general election ballot. If the ballot measure passes, the home rule option will take effect for fiscal years 2024, 2025 through 2028, 2029. Attached is a detailed analysis. Pursuant to the Arizona State Constitution, the city of Somerton is seeking voter approval to adopt a homeroom option to apply to the city of Somerton for the next 4 years, beginning 2025, 2026. Under the home rule option, if approved by voters, the city estimates will allow to spend approximately $28,560,938 in 2025, 2026, $29,679,041 in 2026, 2027, $30,864,600 in 2027, 2028, and $32,123,629 in 2028, 2029. Under the state imposed limitation, the city of Somerton estimates it'll be allowed to expend approximately $10,874,475 in 2025, 2026, $11,446,842 in 2026, 2027, $11,871,625 in 2027, 2028, and $12,304,644 in 2028, 2029. With the approval of home rule option, the city will utilize the expenditure authority for all local budgetary purposes, including general government, public safety, streets, parks, recreation, culture, community design, community development, water treatment and distribution, wastewater collection, and treatment of environmental health and protection. We estimate that the expenditures for the next 4 years under the home rule will be as followed. In 2025, 2026, total expenditures for the 8 sections is $28,560,938. In 2026, 2027, for the 8 items is $29,679,041. 2027, 2028 is $30,864,600, and 2028, 2029 is $32,123,629. If approved, the expenditure authorizations will be funded from revenue obtained from federal, state, and local sources. It is estimated that the amount of the revenue from each source for the next 4 years will be as followed. And there's 3 sources: local, state, and federal, with a total of $28,560,938 in the year 2025, 2026, $29,679,041 in 2026, 2027, $30,864,600 in 27 and 28, and $32,123,629 for 2028 and 2029. In determining the revenue sources to fund the authorized additional expenditures under the alternative expenditure limitation, it assumed that the federal, state, and local revenues received by the city will continue to be available in 2025, 2026, as they have for the past 4 years. Their continued availability is also assumed for the next 3 consecutive years following 2025, 2026. Any and all dollar figures shown in this analysis are estimated figures only and are based upon information available at the time for presentation of this report. The budgets and actual expenditures in any given year may be more or less than the figures noted above, depending on available revenues. The actual expenditure limitations for each fiscal year shall be adopted in an integral part of the budget for that fiscal year. The next table is the population factor computation and the state imposed expenditure limits. These are formula-based worksheets that the state is giving us, that we provide all the information in it for the public knowledge. And that concludes my information for the home rule option.
Any questions or comments? Any questions from members of the public? Well, I just have a few comments. We heard that if this doesn't go through, the budget would go down by 18 million, right? At least for the first year. So we know what the impact, what impact that would have to our services for everything from, especially our general fund services like public safety, Parks and Rec, and those items that, that have a big impact on the quality of life for our residents. So it's important for us to educate people of what the impacts will be. We can't campaign for or against it, but if you educate people what the impact will be, and be, what potential the services will be cut from our budget, then I'm sure there's with an informed public, they'll do the right thing. So, whatever, if there's a committee or it's important for it to get the word around of what the impacts of this not going through happens. I remember last time it was it was too close, closer than other times, but yeah, at least for, go ahead, Councilwoman.
So, Louis, is there a committee or what is the city planning to do to educate our community members on this?
So there will be a Councilwoman, there will be an information that Shona is putting together. We have had some talks on with the local merchants and residents, informing them of this impact, and we're hoping that they will spread the word from their point of view, the pros and cons. Yeah. And legals just remind me that we will have a brochure that we'll be mailing out to all our residents, making them aware of the information. And it's important, like the mayor mentioned, that we get that out there. So everything that at least in what the city can do, we will be doing. This will be going in the general election. So we've already started that process, and so we hope to, like we mentioned, get that information out so everybody's informed and can make the decision on that information.
I just feel that we need to not make it too complex. Will there be business people making videos or something to put out for the community to see? Because if we show them this, I mean, if I show it to my own mom, she won't know, unless we just tell her just vote yes, right? But I want to know, what are we going to do to inform our community, not by just giving them numbers and giving them a brochure. What are we going to do proactively for this?
Well, like you mentioned before, Councilwoman, the committee's going to be involved. We're going to try to get key individuals in the community that are going to help inform the public. Now, what those, we are limited in as city employees and city officials on like the mayor mentioned, the pros and cons, but we're going to make every effort to let the residents know that this is important for our city. Give them the facts about, how this will impact them, and what the difference would be on the services. That's at least on the legal side, that's as much as we can do, but at this time, but we are going to do our best to make sure, and we share the concern, making sure that people understand how this outcome, if what reduction it will cause. So again, we're going to provide as much facts as possible so that they understand and work with those individuals to provide that information to them.
So the mayor said we can't advocate pro or con. So what, as council members, can we do?
Provide them the information in what the reduction of services would be, like the mayor mentioned, and what the impact would be. And so with that brochure that Shona will send out, we hope to have that provided to you. And I believe it's in English and Spanish. And really it's about, like the mayor mentioned, it's about quality of life, level of service, and how that would change. And if this is adopted or not adopted, And so that's where, at least on our side, mayor and council and of course, all city employees, we can provide that information so they understand the impact. At the end of the day, we can't pro or against, but again, we can, that's the importance of the information.
So Councilman Delgado, to ease your concerns, you are allowed to take part in promoting the home rule, talking to residents, talking to your voters. The only thing that the city can't do is spend money on a ballot measure.
Okay.
Okay, so that's gonna have to be some independent committee that's willing to, put that forward. But all of you individually, you can call your friends, advocate for it, put flyers, put posters, put whatever you can, as long as money's not being spent from.
So we can say you vote yes or no in our personal.
You can advocate the
pages
proposition
or-
if that's your own recommendation to your
I can share it on
constituent.
social media.
So
and
long
do
as
all
you
that.
don't spend any money from the city.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? The motion to close,
So movement.
And I'm sorry, before you vote on your motion, the state constitution does require a second public hearing. So there will be a second public hearing on this same issue, same information for residents to continue to come and be educated on this issue. So it's a requirement for 2 public hearings. So the next one will be at the next council meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
so motion by Councilwoman Sendeja, Delgadillo, sorry.
Second, Mayor.
Second by Councilwoman Roldán, those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. We have one presentation of the city's audit for fiscal year 2023.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor and Council. Shawna Madell, Finance Director. Today, we will be presenting the fiscal year 2023 final audit report that was conducted by Hinton Burdick, CPAs and Advisors. On the line is Crimson Singleton that will be doing her presentation in regards to the slides that are in front of you. Crimson?
Hello, Council. I thank you for having me this evening. As Shawna mentioned, my name is Crimson Singleton, and I'm an audit director here at Hinton Burdick, and I'm here to report the results of the fiscal year 2023 audit. And yeah, you can go to the next slide there. Before we dive in, we just wanted to thank Chona and all of her team and everyone that helped us with the audit. It's a lot of work beyond the day-to-day duties of keeping the city running, of providing information and gathering things for the audit. So we appreciate all their help, and especially Chona. And she was fairly new to the city and she had to dive right in and help us with the audit. And so we thank her. And we also want to mention Keddington and Christensen, who helps provide some accounting services there. They provide a lot of schedules and key accounting assistance that helps us with the audit as well. So we thank them. And then as we get into the financial statements, I believe you all have a copy. As you can see, they're kind of big and there's a lot to it. So we just wanted to mention, if you look at nothing else, if you go to page 5 of those statements, there's a management's discussion and analysis, and that's kind of a high level overview of what happened during the year. So you can turn to that at your leisure and look at that. So, okay, and now if you want to go back up to slide number 3. Yep. So as part of our audit, there's a few reports that we include inside the financial statements. The first one is the report on page 1. This is a report on the financial statements themselves. It's our independent auditor's report. And we're pleased to report there that there's an unmodified opinion, or in other words, a clean opinion. Everything was good on the financial statements. And then on page 103 of the financial statements, there's a report on internal controls over financial reporting and on compliance. And we're pleased to report there that there's no findings there. Last year, there were a couple of items that we had mentioned, but those were cleaned up, and so there's no findings to report this year. Okay, now you can go to slide number 4. We also have to perform some procedures on state compliance, and the report on page 105 is where we address that. There was one item that we found there, and the details of that is on the separate findings and recommendations letter you should have all received as part of your packet, but just kind of a high level overview of what that finding was. It's been a finding for a couple of years. It's the PSPRS funding policy. That's for the public safety pension, public safety personnel, public safety pension fund. So each year the city is required to establish a funding policy for that pension and post it on their website, and that had not been done. And I will mention, I believe Chona is working on that, so hopefully that should go away here in the next while. So and then there's also one other report that we issue. It's kind of it's separate thing that's not included in the financials. It's the annual expenditure limitation report. So as we were just talking about earlier, the city is required to stay within the approved limits on their spending. And so we just want to report that for fiscal year 23, the city was below that voter approved expenditure limitation there. So that's kind of it on the reports. And then next we'll get into a few fund highlights. I know this is all fiscal year 23, so it's a little bit old data as it's almost a year past, but we'll go through it, and hopefully you've been receiving more up-to-date information from your finance department, but we can go through this. So in the financial statements, the governmental funds start on page 18, and the proprietary funds start on page 21. So those are some of your main funds, and what we'll go through here is some trend analysis and some graphs that will kind of show some information over the last 5 years. We'll be looking at the fund balance and net position of these funds, and just a reminder of what this is and what we're going to be looking at. If you take all of the assets in that fund, subtract out the liabilities in that fund, that will get you your fund balance. It's called fund balance in governmental funds, or net position in the proprietary or business type funds. So basically the equity in those funds. So this first one is the general fund. Well, first of all, so I just will mention overall the general fund, it was below its approved budget for the fund overall, is under budget by 6.4 million. There were a few departments that were a little over budget, but overall the fund as a whole was under budget. For the general fund in total, the change in fund balance decreased about 225,000. And then on this chart, we've broken that out into a couple different components. So that overall, the fund balance is 4.8 million. That red line on the bottom is the restricted fund balance. It's almost 1 million. This is resources that are set aside for capital outlay, and they have to be spent on capital outlay. It's for like development fees and things like that that have been collected that must be used for capital outlay purposes. And then that top line there, which is almost 3.8 million, that represents unassigned fund balance. So that can be used at the city's discretion for whatever you want to use it for. Currently, the city has 3.1 months worth of operating reserves in this fund. And the minimum reserves recommended by the Government Finance Officers Association is 2 months. So overall, it's in a healthy position. You can see it's trending downward a little bit for those unassigned fund balances, but overall, you're fine as of now. So it's stable, but trending downward a little bit. So as long as you're kind of steady, you should be fine there. All right, you can go ahead and go to the next one. This is the Highway User Revenue Fund. This fund also operated within its approved budget for the fund. And you'll notice that all of these funds are restricted. So yeah, the funds received are state gas tax revenues, and those funds are specifically must be used for road construction and maintenance. The change in fund balance, it was a decrease of 637,000. It went down quite a bit. And that's this fund oftentimes will vary year by year. A lot of times resources will be saved up for a large project, and then once the project starts, the resources may be spent down. But the large increase this year was mainly due to a transfer over to the Capital Projects Fund to cover the streets portion of a Somerton Heights project, was a lot of that. So as of the end of the fiscal year 23, there's 32,000 in that fund. All right, and then the next one, this is the debt service fund. This fund also operated within its approved budget. Total resources in the fund at the end of fiscal year 23 is almost 1.4 million. It's maintained steady over the last few years, has a slight increase of 28,000. And this fund is required to be used for, it's assigned to be used for debt service. So overall, that fund's been steady in the resources available there for debt service. All right, you can go to the next one. This is the water fund. This fund also operated within its approved budget. The overall change in net position was an increase of 251,000. This is broken out into a few different resources available. So the top one is the net investment in capital assets of just over 8.2 million. That represents all of the capital assets in the fund, less any debt related, outstanding debt was related to acquiring those capital assets. So that you can see that's balance has been increasing quite a bit over the last couple of years. And this is due to several projects that have been going on and different capital asset additions in the fund. Some of the main items increasing those capital assets. There's the water storage tank, which was almost $1 million. Somerton Heights project, 215,000. The Valley Vista project was completed. There was a $250,000 added during the year for that, and various other small additions. And then, so that increased it. And then as debt payments are made, that increases that balance as well, because there's less debt to reduce that balance. And then as there's depreciation expense, that will decrease that balance a little bit as the assets are depreciating. But overall, it's been increasing quite a bit the last couple of years for all the capital asset stuff. And then, you can stay on that slide for just a minute. I'll touch on those bottom lines as well. So that red line there, it's just over 500,000. That's represents restricted resources. Some of that is for debt reserves, about 376,000 is required to be reserved for debt service. And then there's about $150,000 for that's reserved for capital outlay purposes that have been development fee collections. And then that bottom line is the unrestricted net position. And you can see it's been trending downward over the last 5 years. At the end of the fiscal year, it had a negative 665,000 unrestricted deficit. And it's down quite a bit from the prior year. So that's something to keep an eye on. The water fund should have enough resources in that fund to cover the ongoing operations of the fund. And so, yeah, just, yeah, keep an eye on that. If you generally, you'd want that to be, if you want that to be 2 months worth of operating expenses, that should be around 340,000. So yeah, keep an eye on that. You may require a look into there, see if charges for services need to increase or what to get that fund into a healthy position there. So okay, you can go to the next slide now. This is the sewer fund. The top line again is the net investment in capital assets. There's about $12.4 million in net capital assets in the fund. Some of the additions of capital assets in the fiscal year were the high school lift station project of $168,000, Somerton Heights project, $421,000, a few other smaller additions. And there's depreciation expense during the year of $1 million. So yeah, overall that's been increasing a little bit over the last few years as well. And then the red line there, it's almost 2.2 million, represents the restricted net position in the fund. 1.1 million for debt service reserves, and another 1.1 million is for capital outlay reserves from development fees that were collected. And then the bottom line there is the unrestricted net position. This fund is also in the negative 340,000. And it's been in the negative for a while. It's slowly kind of been building its way up to get in a little bit better position, but it is still in the deficit. And so that's another area you can keep an eye on as well, to make sure that the resources in the fund are able to sustain the operations in that fund. All right, you can go to the next one now. This is the sanitation fund. This fund also operated within the approved budget. The blue line there in the middle is the net investment in capital assets. It's maintained fairly steady over the last few years. There were no capital asset additions in this fund during the year. Basically, there was a little bit of depreciation and also some debt payments that were about the same, that kept that fairly steady this year. And then that green line is the unrestricted net position. This fund also jumped down into a deficit of 37,000. Some of that was due to no longer providing commercial services, and also so the revenues were down a little bit, and also salaries and wages increased some in this fund. So overall, that's pushed it down into a deficit position. So another area to kind of keep your eye on and make sure that the fund's resources are available to cover the operations of that fund. All right, you can go to the next slide. this is the overall cash balances of the city at the end of the year. The governmental activities had just under 10.5 million in those funds, and then the business type activities which are the water, sewer, sanitation funds. The cash there has been fairly constant and it's about 3.4 million. And overall cash was up 1.7 million in the citywide, so. All right, so that's what I had for you today. If you scroll that next slide, this is our contact information. You're welcome if you have any questions now. I'm happy to answer them. And otherwise, if you think of something later and have any questions, you can reach out to myself or Chad Atkinson. He's the audit partner who also oversees the audit work, and you're welcome to reach out to him as well. But we appreciate the opportunity to work with the city, and we'll that's it, unless we've got any other questions. So,
Yes, Councilwoman Delgadillo has a question.
okay.
Well, my question would be for Chona or maybe for you, but you mentioned something about the general fund being under budget, what the voters had voted for.
Mhm.
The way you made it sound was like, we're in the red, or, I mean, is it wrong that we're under budget? Or I thought it would be pretty good if we're under
No,
budget.
yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, you'll want, if you go over budget, that's when you get into trouble. Or, yeah, that's where you don't want to go over budget. So if you're under budget, yeah, that's fine. That's, yeah, that's what you'd want, so.
It's because I saw it under one of your findings, so I was wondering if it was a fine.
So Crimson,
Um,
I can go ahead and take this
Sure.
question. Chona Medell, Finance Director. For the expenditure limitations, every year we have to state, the state gives us an expenditure limitation of what we need to be at. And as long as we don't go over that, yeah, we're good to go. So that's what she was referring to as far as.
It's not a
we're-
finding.
Yeah, and it's not a finding. I believe that there was a couple of items that she had stated that that kind of were toggling on the budget, but there was no finding in regards to over budget.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay, yeah, there was, I think I see what you're referring to now. There was a couple of departments that were over budget in the general fund, so we did just bring, it's not really a finding. It's not, doesn't have to be reported to the state. It's just more for your information. There were a couple of departments that were over budget, but overall, citywide, you were under budget, so there's no reportable findings there, so.
Any other questions or comments?
I do have a comment, Mayor and Council, just to let you know on the audit finding from 2021 that's been on the books for a couple of years for the PSPRS funding policies. That will be coming to you next council meeting. In order to get that updated, we'll have the 2024 pension policy as well as the 2025, because that needs to be posted in July as well. So that will be all up to date, and the finding is already will be completed. Any more questions?
Thank you, Shona.
Thank you, Crimson.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to summer current events.
Mayor, first we have our Chief of Police, Juarez.
Mayor and Council, good evening. Araceli Juarez, Chief of Police. We have the Amberleys event that happened this weekend at Wayland's Water World. The explorers were there. We had about 13 kids. The event went very, very well. They're very grateful to the city of Somerton for allowing the kids to participate, because it just makes everything go very, very smooth. They have hundreds of people showing up. So all that little extra hands that are helping out, they're very grateful for that. So they just wanted me to convey thank you to the city of Somerton for allowing that. This is our second or third year that we participated in that. We will be hosting a educational class at the senior center on June 12th from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on elderly abuse awareness. So I believe Yamilet or somebody from the city already shared that information with you. I left my notes, so I'm trying to remember what else I had. But I
Yeah.
think
CIPs.
our CIPs, we hit all of them. They finalized something with the roof today. We had our server replaced. That was an awesome job. Collaboration with Alexis and the IT department and our staff, and of course the providers, in collaboration with the fire chief. We all worked together to make the phone system installation happen and the server room. That was two huge projects that we had for the CIPs. That's all I have. Thank you.
Next, Charles Gutierrez, Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Charles Gutierrez, Public Works Director. In the Streets Division, we will be looking to stripe Bingham Avenue from Garvin all the way to County 17th Street with new bike lanes. We're wrapping up the final details of all that right now. More to come on that one here, and you'll see movement out there. Working on the Somerton Monument out there at Avenue D and US 95, you'll see the streets crew starting to put the forms and everything out there and filling up, putting concrete out there. At the same time that they're going to be putting the concrete on Via del Sol pathway, the concrete work, benches, trash cans, and some temporary lights will go up by the end of the fiscal year. On the Water Division, the inside of the tank has been coated on the inside and has been sanitized. It should be starting to fill up by Thursday. By Friday, the June 7th, it should be full. This way they can paint the outside, put the coating on the outside. And just to let you know, in Somerton Heights, DPE will be grading and paving. They're grading presently and should be paving by the end of next week. Thank you.
James Jones, Parks and Rec Director.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. James Jones, Parks and Rec Director. I brought a gift. I'll explain in a second. As you remember, we had the MOU with Yuma County. This is a representative of what we were giving them as they come and buy their passes. This is kind of the way that would like to move forward in the future with our pool and how we run it. So I just wanted you to see a representation of it. If you want to use it, go ahead and use it. I recommend. We'll get back to that. We are finishing up our youth football this week, flag football this week. The championship games will be on Thursday night at Council Park. Youth basketball season's in full swing. Practices from June 3rd to June 23, and then we'll start the games after that between 5 and 8 at the community center. We have 146 kids registered for that. The pool is now open. We have 215 registered for session 1 of the swim classes. So we're off and running. The youth summer camp is going for ages 6 to 8. We have 25 signed up today for that. That runs during the day at the community center also. The community center bathroom remodel should be done at the end of the week or early next week. So that's going to be finished on time or ahead of time. So that's great. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Economic Development, Jasmine Murillo.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jasmine Zamudio, Economic Development. Just a quick update on Parkview. We will be putting new development signage out early next week, and I will also be publishing some digital outreach as well. Any questions? Thank you.
And then Finance Director.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Chona Medell, Finance Director. I wanted to let you know that our grants writer has started. Her name is Brandy Brookins. She has several years of experience in finance, so she has a strong finance background. She will be taking some courses in regards to grant writing. She's been with us for 2 weeks. She's been making herself familiar with our grants and understanding the administration of our current grants and pulling all of that in. Our transition for Chase Bank is about 80% complete and hopes to have the fully transitioned everything over from Wells Fargo to Chase the end of August 2024. And then myself and my accountant, Yvette Garcia, is attending the National GFOA Conference next week and hopes to gain more knowledge, aspects, and changes in the government finance, and hoping to do some networking to get the city having more innovative and more efficient items out there. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, I just want to let you know again, I think I sent this out, but I just wanted to let you know that the 380,000, we did receive an award letter from, this was through Representative Grijalva's, Congressman Grijalva's office. So that was 2 years in the making, and we finally received that letter, and we'll be hopefully moving forward that process, and sometime next fiscal year, we'll be receiving that funding. And this was for, just to let you know, this was for the other 2 tanks, the refurbishing project.
Councilman Castillo,
I got nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilwoman Gonzalez,
Nothing, Mayor.
Councilwoman Delgadillo,
Nothing, Mayor, thank you.
Councilman Roldan.
Attended, Mayor, the luncheon for the Public Works, and it was nice to, well, the person that received the award, a very humble person, Raul, and it's, it's nice that, so thank you, Charles, for food was good. And I also, I passed by the pool yesterday, and it was very packed even today, so yeah, there's a lot of, the parking lot was full, and also, so yeah, good job.
Vice Mayor,
I have I don't know if it belongs here, but a couple of weeks ago, I was approached by some older people. I was on the pathway and they asked me, right now the weather was nice, but soon it will be getting warmer. And they live somewhere in the Yo Munoz Park. And they said they would like to be walking around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, but there's no lights. And they were saying, can they turn the lights on the baseball field so they can at least illuminate that area? And I said, well, let me ask, but they would like to walk there because there are older people. So, but there's no lights, hardly any lights, isn't on the pathways on the
where the field is, no, it's dark.
where the field is, no, isn't it?
Mayor, if I may?
Yeah.
There is some lighting. If you go to the Joe Munoz Field, attached to the lights are other, they're more like parking lights. There is some lighting, but that is one thing that we're working with Parks and Rec, is visiting each of the parks and looking at how we can better serve our residents, especially like you mentioned in the summer months. So as a matter of fact, James and I will be traveling to each of the parks and facilities and doing an assessment this next couple of months to add to the 5-year CIP. It does make a big difference when the all field lights are on at Joe Munoz, because there is lights inside of Joe Munoz Park. We do have a couple of lights, but we've also have talked to the Parks and Rec director about additional lighting at the basketball courts to light up the volleyball courts and get those back into working. So we are trying to see how we can address the lighting in that part. But yes, we understand the concern, and we'll definitely follow up.
I want to thank staff for the planning today's event. It was, maybe next year we can, get the coaches' numbers or something, because yeah, there's been getting texts that some students didn't know, especially Kofa was the biggest offender there, so yeah. But yeah, the event was great, well attended. I'm sure all those certificates and everything, just a lot of work, so thank you. And next for next council meeting, 4 of the council members are going to be at the NALEO conference. I tried moving it, but we can't, since we have two items that have been advertised in the newspaper, so Vice Mayor Galindo is gonna take over that meeting. And, yeah. And for 4th of July, that week, we're gonna move the council meeting for the following week, so following Tuesday, so to allow for that holiday.
Yeah, Mayor, if I may, we'll be providing that, legal will be providing that resolution to be able to do that on the 18th.
Okay. It's 8 p.m., meeting's adjourned.